morning, good people. Making my coffee once again. Running a little bit behind. Oh, my handy dandy, everyday dose. Gotta have that everyday dose. Spilled all the coffee. Okay, good morning. Good morning, people. Our fellow people pleasers. Today is Saturday, the 15th of November, 2025. Holy moly, this month is halfway over. Wow. And as an added benefit, it is the pancake breakfast. Dang it. I don't have any of those coupons, those tickets at the senior center. 8 o'clock to noon. It should be a good time for all. Right. Love thy neighbor, TPUSA. Making things happen. Making things happen. So, yeah. So groovy. So that's good. Just thinking it through what's going to be happening today. Our first one, and on Wednesday, we have our volunteers not our volunteers lunch. We have the monthly wraparound where the turkey dinner for our orphans and widows. The third annual, right. So that's from 11 to 1, 10 to 1. And then the following week on Thursday, Thanksgiving, is the coalition. It's not the coalition. It's the, I don't know, Friends of Pahrump or something like that. The Thanksgiving dinner where I expect to be working. Okay. And we have 8 people in housing, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of things happening today. Big day, big day. And we have a really big shoe. So this is day 6 of week 2. Or if you are from Pahrump, it's week 2, day 6. Inside our school-size kingdom and our state pen workbook, the neuroscience-oriented approach to success. All right. Big things happening in AI. Looks like I can take all of the videos for week 1 and create a notebook or a workbook. I can create a workbook of all of the videos that are week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4, and be able for it to be interactive, where you can ask it questions and it will type back answers. In the future, it certainly will be able to be like, I don't know, me. So it will be a, what do they call that? It's not a doppelganger. It's a deep fake recreation of me through the last 15 years. Wow. Spooky, spooky, spooky. Okay. Our theme of today. Let's see, what is our theme of today? This is an interesting one. Our theme of today is, for us, it's do or die. This could have been something said by Caesar at Pharphalus. Was it Pharphalus? the battle against Pompey, the final decisive battle of the Civil War of Caesar against Pompey, where when it was over, Caesar's in the post-game interview, the ESPN interview, and he was asked about it. He said, well, if the other side had a better general, the outcome would have been different. Would have been different if they had somebody who was a better general than Pompey. Pompey, most people don't even know who Pompey was. Okay, but Caesar, when Caesar found out that the army, the Roman army was lining up for battle, and they had been there for weeks, being starved out. Caesar's been starved out, tired, sick, hungry, eating whatever they could find. And Pompey's refreshed army, much larger, started lining up for battle. Caesar's slave, who was an educated person, slaves were different back then than as we know them, said, they're lining up for battle. And he said, Caesar said something to the effect of, good, finally. And because when Caesar would line up for battles, Pompey wouldn't fight because they were starving him out. So now Pompey's lining up for battle. Caesar says, good. And Caesar's slave points out all of the reasons it's not good. They're fresh, they're larger, we're weak, we're tired, we're sick. And Caesar said, well, for us, it's do or die. They have other options. Caesar's people were fighting for its life. So our theme of today is, for us, it's do or die. But this is G.school, where we focus on the spiritual leg of the table, or the spiritual part of the boat, which is the hull, to keep it intact, to keep it strong. And so this is about Revelations. One word, I could sum it up. But before we get to that, advice from an 80-year-old: never deprive someone of hope. It might be all that they have. Might be all that they have. So true. And when we find people that have lost hope, it's pretty rough and tough because they're in survival mode mentality. We are no longer people to them. We are objects to be, who are either obstacles or tools. Obstacles, things in the way of what they want, or tools to get what they want. And they're very good at learning, at using that skill. Okay, Jill Bolte Taylor, My Stroke of Insight, very good TED Talk. Let's see what Seth Godin has to say. All the cards. If someone hands you a deck, you can be sure there are 52 cards covering 4 suits. The universe is finite. The cards are the cards, and the games work precisely for that reason. Every deck is the same, and all the players have the same options. Some of the systems we compete in have a limited number of cards known to all. More often, though, there's the possibility of surprise. Options that weren't considered by others. Paths that are still unexplored. Technology mints new cards, but so do brave decisions and commitment. It's rare to know all the available cards, and rarer still to have them all. Okay, interesting. Let's talk about Jill Bolte Taylor. Jill Bolte Taylor was a Harvard scientist. This is probably close to 20 years now. And one morning she had a stroke. It started out as like a disorienting headache type of thing. So she was able to do stuff for, I don't know, perhaps an hour. get on her exercise machine, take a shower. As her blood is bleeding into her skull, a broken blood vessel, blood is pumping in, killing neurons, and switching her consciousness from both hemispheres to only her right hemisphere working, as this one would get shut off, and experiencing what it was like to have her left brain hemisphere stopped, turned off, or not working. And then experiencing that last few seconds of consciousness where she said it was like a balloon with that last little bit of air. And she was conscious of the thought that this could be the transition of her life. And then surprised to wake up in the recovery room of the hospital, where a golf ball sized mass of blood was removed from her skull. And then 10 years of rehabilitation. And she's back, but she's been back for a long time. And now she's out on the circuit talking about what the difference between left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and how the right hemisphere is just all of the sensations from everything around us coming in, and we are all connected. We, meaning everything, is all connected. And then the left hemisphere kicks in, and I am now separate from everything. And her point is that perhaps we should spend more time in the right hemisphere where we are all connected. So it could be a categorical imperative sort of thing, that if everybody did that and experienced it, we would be better, closer to one another. Okay, so why do we care? Well, our purpose is, again, understanding the brain. This is a neuroscience course, so we can look at it from, so this shows us a number of things. One is this all occurs in the brain. She did not have any outer body experience where her soul left her body. What she had was one hemisphere effectively being turned off, and so it was just this hemisphere and then both hemispheres. And the point being, the human brain is the most complex thing in the universe other than the universe, way more complicated than anything else there is. And one of the fascinating ideas is that humans have the ability to contemplate the ability to think about their brains. What? Yeah. So for us, this is a very good one about Jill Bolte Taylor. We don't look at it for the reason she said it, as with most of our TED Talks. We don't watch them for the reason the person gave them. We watch them to support our theme. And our theme this week is Inside My School-Sized Kingdom, how my brain works. And so we can get to understand the differences between the two hemispheres, what they do, what their purpose is. And that helps us better dial in who we need to be right now. Okay, and it supports the idea of all of our feelings come from the release of neurotransmitters, neurohormones, chemicals in our brain. And when that's disrupted, who we are, what we think, all changes. Okay, cool. So we've got about 5 minutes to talk about our MIMO of today. For us, it's do or die. So I had a little conversation last evening with Linda, one of the true leaders now of Love Thy Neighbor, who can trace her work history back to Howard Hughes. So that's really cool. That means I'm one generation removed from Howard Hughes. I know somebody that had met Howard Hughes. Cool. And Bob Mayhew. Of course, I met his son through Father Max. Okay, anyway, time is racing. The question was about revelations. Who is the Antichrist? What is this? What is that? And it's kind of like there's a tremendous advantage to learning Christianity by not using the Bible as the proof of what the Bible says, of using external things, whatever's going on externally. And so for Revelation, if we look at what was the world like at the time it was written, and asking the question, did what was going on in the world have any impact on what was being written? Were they writing about that? And so there is a large body. I'll probably do a thing with it on Claude maybe today. Is it possible that Revelations was written for now and in the short near-term future in our generation? Written for the generation of people who were alive, who were concupiscent at that time. Is it possible that that's what it was, not what people are doing today, saying it's happening now? He wrote about it almost 2,000 years ago, but he wrote about what's happening today. What if it was, no, he's writing about what was happening then and what was likely to happen in their lifetime, in the next 20, 50 years. So what was going on at the end of the first century and beginning of the second century AD? What was going on in their world? Well, first Jewish revolt was crushed, and it would be safe to say it was not safe to be a Jew at that time. The Romans it was unsafe to be a Jew at that time unless you pledged allegiance to Rome. So who were the bad guys in Revelations? The Romans, the Roman Caesar and the whole Roman system. And this was a time of Rome could stamp out the Jews, could stamp out this Cairo-Christian, this new Christianity that was springing up. And what would they need? They would need an explanation of what was going on, some way to make sense of it. So it makes sense that Revelations was written for the people to basically, for these Christians to basically say, hold on, don't quit. Yes, they're trying to stamp us out, but God is going to win if we remain faithful. Could they put it in terms of us against the Romans? No, they couldn't. They'd have to use metaphor and disguise it behind other names and speak in the way that Revelations is written. And then there was the Jewish revolt of what was it, 140, 144 AD, the second Jewish revolt. So at this time, they needed, at this time, some tool, some foundation to keep the movement going was vital. Don't give up now. Here is a revelation from God. And all of the people then knew what it was about because they were living it. They didn't have to wonder, when is this all going to happen? It was happening then. The suppression, the destruction, the temple was gone. So at the time Revelations was written, the temple was already gone. It was in living memory. The Jews were being oppressed even more. And now if you were Jewish, might this new Christian sect be of interest to you? It could be, because you could get, on the one hand, It's very dangerous to be a Jew. And on the second hand, our God is not saving us. Maybe, what if this Jesus character, what if he actually was him? At least he was Jewish. And maybe we can dip our toe into this and see if it makes more sense. Because what's happening now is, once again, God has let us down, or we're being punished, or whatever. So the question, the what if question is, what if Revelations was written for the time, for the people at that time? Not for the purpose of the people at that time saying, golly gee, I wonder what people in the year 2025 are going to be thinking when they read this. Or at some point in the next Brazilian years, this is going to come to pass. And one of the interesting things is, every generation thinks that Revelations is coming true now. And I would say, if it was going to come true, if Revelations did apply to any time, it would have been the 20th century, the first 50 years of the 20th century, when we had the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, the systematic extermination of the Jews. What's happening now is nothing compared to the first 50 years of the 20th century. Oops. So for people who don't know history, who are just reading the Bible and trying to put their map onto the Bible, my understanding of the world today applied to Revelations and saying, yeah, there's that guy, Peter Thiel. Yeah, he's a venture capitalist. He's made money. He's the Antichrist. It's cuckoo Luku. And 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, my hunch is people are not going to be doing that. But if we go on the same course we're going, 1,000 years from now, people would still be saying, yeah, we're in the end times. We're in the end times. We've been in the end times for the last 1,900, almost 1,900 years, almost 2,000 years. We've been in the end times. So maybe we're not in the end times. Maybe the end times were what the writer of Revelations was thinking of then. We're getting close. Okay, guys, we need to hold on. We need to have our battle cry. We need to have for us, it's do or die. They have other options. For us, we got to have the courage of our convictions, have the courage of our beliefs, that if they take our lives, our soul will continue, because we fought the good fight, we ran the good race, we were obedient to Jesus' commands. And with that, we'll say Shivas and Shalomo. Shalomo? Shalomo? Okay. All right. And cut.